Hey, what's up everyone? This is Dan the Movie Man with another big show for you today. Today we will be talking about Birds of Prey and the fantabulous emancipation of one Harley Quinn, or Harley Quinn and Birds of Prey, depending on what theater chains are calling it now.
Who are you guys?
Here's the deal, Quinn. You need me.
He's after all of us now. None of us are walking out of here unless we work together.
With you. You gotta be kidding me.
Isn't this fun? It's just like a sleepover. We should order pizza. Big cosmos. Harley, focus. Okay. I'm the one they should be scared of. Not you. Not Mr. J. Because I'm Harley freaking Quinn.
Who's having a good time?
Get ready, ladies.
Now, this is the latest installment of the DCEU and tells the story of Harley Quinn after her breakup with the Joker and finding emancipation in Gotham City. But among that, she finds herself in a little bit of trouble with some shady people that she has to fight against with the help of some allies, including Black Canary, played by Jurnee Smollett-Bell, Huntress, played by Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and Renee Montoya, played by Rosie Perez. So here's my review on this. Now, when I heard that there was going to be a Birds of Prey film, I had very low expectations for it because I know jack about the Birds of Prey. I do know that in the original comics it consists of Black Canary, Huntress, and Barbara Gordon's Batgirl, and that's just it. I don't remember Harley Quinn ever being a part of the Birds of Prey. I mean, she's probably, teamed up with them maybe once or twice or a few times before. But when I heard that she was going to be the main focus of it, and when I saw the promotional stuff for it, I started to get a little bit worried just because I was like, well, that's not what Birds of Prey is. This is basically a Harley Quinn film. And it pretty much is, yes. This is a Harley Quinn film featuring the Birds of Prey. And that's a little bit distracting. Like, even though the movie is actually good, it actually is passable. It's a lot of fun. It's bonkers. It's just a poor marketing campaign, just because I feel like what the movie should have been called was Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey. And I know that there are certain theater chains that renamed it Harley Quinn Birds of Prey, which I feel like is a little bit better, but I feel like it's a little too late for that kind of change. Now, does that make the movie bad overall? Absolutely not. Margot Robbie is still a tremendous Harley Quinn. It feels like the problem I had with Suicide Squad, even though it is a fun movie, it kind of suffered from an identity crisis because it didn't understand if it wanted to be dark or comedic, because the first Comic-Con trailer for that advertised it as this dark Black Ops films with supervillains in it. And then the reshoots happened and it seemed like it came off more comedic, that they're like, oh, we want this to be the DC version of Guardians of the Galaxy. And, ironically, the Suicide Squad coming out next year, ironically, will be directed by James Gunn. But what makes this movie better is that it feels like it has an identity. It understands what kind of movie it is. It doesn't feel like it's directed by a studio. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't really understand what kind of vision it wants. Like David Ayer's Suicide Squad, like it had like a hint of what he wanted to do, but I feel like that Warner Brothers just wanted to do their thing. And what I really like what DC is doing now is that they're letting directors do what they want. So when you give a director creative freedom, that's what makes something unique. I mean, Man of Steel is a little bit divisive, but you can definitely tell that's the movie that Zack Snyder wanted to do. Batman vs. Superman, Suicide Squad, and Justice League are different stories, but movies like Wonder Woman, Aquaman, and Shazam, you know, the director was given their choices to do the kind of movie they wanted and succeed. Even with Joker, Todd Phillips, you know, it felt like he didn't have anyone controlling him. And it goes for the same with Cathy Yan, who, by the way, is the very first Asian woman to ever direct a superhero movie. So you gotta give credit to that as well. Other performances, you have Journey Smollett-Bell as Black Canary, who is probably one of the best parts of the film. My favorite character, though, is Huntress, played by the lovely Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
You betrayed him. You killed his BFF.
What?
You are so cool.
But the issue with Huntress is that she is the one character with the least amount of screen time, but she has the most interesting backstory. It's like at one point she comes in and the audience just goes, oh yeah, Huntress was a character the whole time. One of the characters that is drastically different from the comics is Cassandra Cain, who in this movie is a girl who is a pickpocketer who happens to steal from the villain, who I'll get to in a minute. Now, that change I'm not upset about, but here's the thing. Cassandra Cain in the comics is actually the second Batgirl, and the other thing is that she's a mute. And she talks in this movie, so if you're a big Cassandra Cain fan, you're probably gonna be left disappointed just because she doesn't come off as the kind of character that you would expect. The one who's having the most fun, aside from Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn, is easily Ewan McGregor as Roman Sionis, aka Black Mask. He is just chewing up the scenery with this film. You could definitely tell that Ewan McGregor was just given full freedom of what he was given to do. And while he is entertaining, would I say he is one of the best DCEU villains? Yes. I would not put him as number one because, even though he is, completely evil and memorable and has a lot of personality, he's a flamboyant misogynist. He's just a jerk. He just doesn't really have that much motivation to be evil. He's just an evil crime boss. Like, for example, I still consider today the best DCEU villain was Ocean Master in Aquaman. And the reason being for that, even though he is depicted as a villain, he sees himself as a hero, kind of like Killmonger in Black Panther or Thanos in Infinity War, is that how I see with certain villains, the best ones are the ones that are the hero of his or her journey. Now, that's not to say with just comic book movies, but films altogether. But what made Ocean Master interesting was that he had a legit reason on why he was portrayed as evil. He wanted to wipe out humanity and plunge it under the ocean, mainly due to pollution. And that's a reasonable cause, but he wanted to do it out of genocide. General Zod in Man of Steel, he wanted to recreate Krypton on Earth because, he wanted his people to live on, but he was raised where genocide was the only reasoning behind what he did, and that's why he came off as a villain. Even with Black Manta, his goal was just to get revenge on Aquaman, but with Black Mask, you know, he's just a jerk, but a likable jerk. Victor Zsasz is in the movie as well, and you know, there's not a lot to him. He's just a henchman in it. The whole shtick of him is that he has carvings on his skin, which are representations of his victims, which, not representations, they are his victims. And they do explain that, but they're not like tally marks, they're just scratches all over his face, which I guess is okay. It's nothing really to be upset about. But again, the whole Birds of Prey dynamic, the whole 3/4 of the film is just basically a Harley Quinn film featuring the Birds of Prey. And that, again, that's really distracting because the movie is called Birds of Prey, so you would expect that everyone would be considered to be like a main character and they would have their own arc, kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy. But it's like, imagine Deadpool 2 coming out, but instead of Deadpool 2, they just instead called it X-Force and the Wondrous Adventures of Wade Wilson. People would be upset because they'd be going into an X-Force movie and thinking, oh, wait a minute, this is Deadpool 2. They're not giving these characters enough depth. And I feel like that's kind of the big issue with that. But overall, I don't think that this is a bad movie at all. This is actually a bonkers film. It's unapologetically bonkers. Like, if you're looking for that, if you're looking for a strong girl power movie, that if you're not familiar with the Birds of Prey, you're gonna be in heaven. But if you're a huge fan of those characters, like you're a Birds of Prey aficionado, you might be a little bit mixed on it. The best way I could describe it, it's if you got a blender and you put in Deadpool, Mean Girls, John Wick, Snatch, and put them all in there and mix it a little bit of the genre of Quentin Tarantino, put the lid on and mix it. That is what this movie is. The narration in it just reminds me of Deadpool if Deadpool was, again, directed by Quentin Tarantino. And again, I do appreciate that because the film has a style. You know, it doesn't try to take itself too seriously. You know, while it may not be the Birds of Prey movie that we hoped for, it's easily the Harley Quinn movie that Harley Quinn easily deserves. And one of the best parts is that it's an R-rated film. You know, it doesn't shy away of being R-rated. You know, it's hyper violent, there's a lot of language in it. And that's what I'm starting to really appreciate about the DCEU. And I really love the Marvel Cinematic Universe and what they've been able to do ever since 2008. But what makes the DCEU unique is that, you know, they're not afraid to get into the nitty and gritty because they understand what kind of characters are R-rated characters. They understand who is to get that kind of treatment, and Harley Quinn definitely fits into that. You know, if we're gonna talk about R-rated characters, you know, bring John Constantine in, bring Swamp Thing in, bring the Question could probably be an R-rated character if he wanted to, you know, just, there could be a lot to it. You know, if Joker could be the first DCEU, not DCEU, first DC movie that's rated R to make the $1 billion mark. You know, even though this movie, you know, suffered at the box office, I think it should still get a lot more recognition. Just go and see it. Show your support for this movie. Show that you want more movies like this. You know, stuff that's unapologetically bonkers, stuff that is not afraid to, be gritty and funny and lighthearted all at once. Just appreciate for what it is. The final verdict for Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn gets a B+. It is an excellent film with flaws that are going to be leaving a huge significance to someone who has a diehard feeling about the Birds of Prey, but it is an excellent film on someone who is either A, somewhere in the middle, or just someone who has no knowledge of that whatsoever and just wants to see Harley Quinn just do Harley Quinn stuff. Well, that is it for today. Until then, this is Dan the Movie Man signing off.